وبركاته. نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has surrounded us with climate and weather, and human beings are completely immersed in whatever climate and weather Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends their way. And within this are also signs for us, lessons for us, and ahkam for us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the wind repeatedly in the Quran. On some occasions as a sign of His mercy, on some occasions as a sign of His power, on some occasions as a sign of His displeasure and anger. And within all of these different contexts, the Quran draws one common conclusion, and that is there are lessons to be learned from this. The Quran talks about tasrif al-riyah, the changing of the direction of the winds. Today being an extremely windy day, you can't escape the wind. The moment you step outside, you have to face it. So what does the Quran say about it? The first thing is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the changing of the direction of the winds, which also results in the changing of weather and climate and seasons. This is one of those things that Allah has placed within which there is a sign for us, a sign of all of those things that I just mentioned. In some places, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about different kinds of wind. There are many different types of winds that are mentioned in the Quran. There is a whole set of winds that are put to work for us just within the system of rainfall, within that water cycle. Allahu alladhi yursilu riyah fatuthiru sahaban. There is a wind, the muthira. Its function is just to you can say prepare the atmosphere for rainfall. And how does it do that? Like everyone studies as a young child, that the heat and the warmth rises, and with it very minute particles of moisture, they also rise. And when it reaches a certain altitude in the atmosphere, it begins to cool down. And as it cools down, condensation begins to take place. And there are these minuscule particles in the air, particles of like salt and dust, very, very small, 1 micron. These particles of moisture are even smaller. So if one dust particle is 1 micron, then the particles of moisture are 1/10,000th of a micron. And so that surface of 1 micron becomes the surface upon which these very, very tiny particles of moisture begin to collect. So now all of this requires rising, it requires coming together. So this is what's happening. So there are winds that are raising all of this, taking it up. And then there are winds, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls them lawaqih. Lawaqih. And laqiha is the one that impregnates. What does it do? This wind is doing many different things. On one side, it's impregnating those dust particles with this water. And the water that collects on it it's now going through another process. But these winds are also impregnating plants, from the male plants to the female plants. They're conveying all of that pollen and all of that material from one plant to another. Then this wind, as it is forming this condensation, it needs to be held up because now it's starting to gain weight. As more and more of these particles get together and their density begins to increase. So within maybe 1 cubic meter, you will have 100 million of these droplets that have formed through the accumulation of these tiny moisture particles to these tiny dust particles. So as it's gaining density, it's gaining weight. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends winds just to hold it there. Otherwise, there's nothing that can hold the sheer weight of this. And this is what starts forming a cloud. And as these millions and billions of particles join together, and those little dust particles become more and more saturated with water and get heavier. You see these big clouds forming, and sometimes the weight of these clouds is in the hundreds of tons. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is keeping these massive reservoirs of water above our heads without any structure, without any physical structure, without any kind of container or vessel. They're suspended there. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends winds to transfer them to where He wants. This is the musjiyah. It's taking the cloud to wherever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. And after all of this is completed, and those clouds become super saturated, those dust particles become super saturated, and they can no longer bear the weight. They're about to crash, but before they come down on the ground, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends one more wind. And this is the wind, هُوَ الَّذِي يُرْسِلُ الرِّيَاحَ بُشْرًا بَيْنَ يَدِي رَحْمَتِهِ. This wind is sent just to make people happy. It brings within it the smell of rain. The farmers get happy that yes, we're going to get rain. It has no other purpose but to make people happy, to make them content. The drought is coming to an end. The heat wave is coming to an end. And now the cloud prepares to release its water. But if all of that water was released at once, it would destroy everything that it falls on. Every structure, every plant, every living being that it fell on, it would completely annihilate it like a massive wave. Imagine, some of these scientists estimate that many of these average clouds, they weigh about 500 tons. Imagine if 500 tons came crashing down, picking up speed and velocity as it crashes with the weight of gravity. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends one wind, another wind. This is the mufarriqa. This is the one that makes sure that all of this water remains divided in drops, and it gives it a bit of a cushion so they come down gently and they do not destroy everything. This is just those winds that are coming together for the system of rain. But there are other winds mentioned in the Quran. There is the wind of the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about hasiban, that wind that hurls forward like a rock. Hasba is stones and pebbles, but there is a wind that comes crashing just like a rock would come crashing at a person. Asifan, the very harsh blowing wind. Qasifan, the wind that knocks everything down. And then there are those winds Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifically used to assist certain people or destroy certain people. Allahu Akbar. In the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about this whole incident of the battle of Ahzab. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks of how He helped the Muslims with His wind. أَرْسَلْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ رِيحًا وَجُنُودًا لَمْ تَرَوْهَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helped them. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told the Sahaba, نُصِرْتُ بِالصَّبَى وَأُهْلِكَتْ عَادٌ بِالدَّبُورِ. I was helped, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helped me with this wind. And Allah gives examples of the wind. وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَعْمَالُهُمْ كَرَمَادٍ اشْتَدَّتْ بِهِ الرِّيحُ فِي يَوْمٍ عَاصِفٍ. Those people who don't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and walk away with it. They walk away with this disbelief. Leave this world with that disbelief. Now what happens of all their good deeds? They may have done many good things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says all of those things, in akhirah, those things are of no value or of no avail. In dunya, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may compensate them for the good that they've done. But in akhirah, their deeds will be like ashes. Ramadin, ishtaddat bihi rih. Ashes upon which a severe wind blows, fi yawmin asif, in a day of high wind. So these examples are given. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when he would see strong winds blowing, his face would change. Aisha radiallahu anha asked him, O Prophet of Allah, usually when the wind starts blowing, people become happy. And they say that, yes, the wind is here, so it means we're going to get rain, we're going to get some nice weather. So Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, look, it could be, but there was another nation also that saw wind coming and clouds coming. And they said, هَذَا عَارِضٌ مُمْطِرُنَا. Yes, we have a cloud is going to bring rain, but it was not a cloud that was bringing rain. بَلْ هُوَ مَسْتَعْجَلْتُمْ بِهِ رِيحٌ فِيهَا عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ تُدَمِّرُ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ بِأَمْرِ رَبِّهَا فَأَصْبَحُوا لَا يُرَى إِلَّا مَسَاكِنُهُمْ. That cloud brought the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it completely annihilated and demolished them. وَفِي عَادٍ إِذْ أَرْسَلْنَا عَلَيْهِمُ الرِّيحَ الْعَقِيمِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about that wind. He says it was a barren wind. It had no khair in it. So Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to tell Sahaba that, look, when the harsh wind is blowing, don't curse it. لَا تَسُبُّ الرِّيحِ. Don't curse at it. Don't say bad things about. Why? Because it is a creation from the creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But rather when the wind blows, then Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam taught us some kalimat. Allahumma inni as'aluka min khayri hadhihi ar-rih. I ask you for the good of this wind. Wa khayri ma ursilat bihi. And the best of what it brings. Wa khayru ma umirat bihi, in one riwayah. And the best of what this wind has been given instructions to do. And I seek refuge in you from the evil of this wind, and from the evil of what it brings, and from the evil of what it has been commanded to do. So like this, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam taught us how to deal with it. In some riwayat from Salam ibn al-Aqwa radiyallahu anhu, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to say, Allahumma laqihan la aqiman. Oh Allah, make this a beneficial wind, do not make it a destructive wind. So in days like this, because this is a situation that we are currently dealing with in this present day, in today, it makes sense for us to have a bit of reflection on it, and to think about it, and also to see how can we also deal with this in the way that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam taught us to, and how can we reflect on it and learn about it as it is in the Quran. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq. Wa sallallahu wa sallama wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi.